introduction from John Heap, giving overview of what has happened as a result of COVID-19, the implications of it, and the impact it has created on the organizations and people at large, and what do we need to do. Let me come back to a more focused, maybe delivery of next 20 minutes on what does it mean for HR. If you look at what it means for HR, COVID-19 would have major changes in the way organizations work. One of the things which we have seen in India in the last 2 months, and I'm sure this must be happening all over the globe, is that people are working from home. So most of the people today are working in companies from home, which means after the lockdown is over, maybe 15 days down the line or maybe 1 month down the line, companies will have to rethink. Would they need everybody to come back to office, or would they want some people to stay back at home and some people to come to office? Which basically means a major implication for HR in terms of a workforce which is virtually distributed as against people being in maybe one location or 5 locations. People may be distributed over 1,000 or 5,000 locations. Now that's going to be a major challenge for HR in terms of remote HR management, which would basically mean that HR will have to manage people remotely. So it's not just the supervisors who will have to manage their staff or their team remotely, but it is also going to be a challenge for HR, who are responsible for all people related services, whether it is employee benefits, whether it is performance management, whether it is engagement, everything is going to be remote. And therefore, one of the critical things that's going to happen is that HR will have to focus more on performance management on remote basis and also on talent management on remote basis. John Heap mentioned about 2 critical components. He mentioned about skill development, and he also mentioned about managing people in terms of retention. I think those are going to be very critical issues as part of HR function in future. As we know, HR analytics will become critical. It will become a critical component for making management decisions. And that's going to be the focus of my talk today. How does technology help in doing HR functions, and how can organizations benefit from knowledge management with respect to people management? And therefore, we will have to, HR people will have to design and develop customized processes and policies that will meet their requirements. With that, we will need to appreciate what knowledge management I am talking about. We are all familiar with knowledge management. We know there are various systems, technologies, softwares, tools that are available across the globe which help organizations to manage knowledge. But here I'm focusing more in terms of knowledge management with respect to HR function. And with respect to HR function, knowledge management will again have to focus on 2 components of knowledge management: explicit knowledge and the tacit knowledge. I'm sure all of us are familiar that explicit knowledge is one which is available in public domain, knowledge that is available in organization systems, databases, documents, processes. And tacit knowledge is something which resides in people. It resides or lives in the minds of the people, in the hearts of the people. And therefore, one of the greatest challenges that we are going to have is how do we capture tacit knowledge? When I'm talking about explicit knowledge will focus on looking at all the HR functions, whether it is training, whether it is hiring, whether it is operations, people engagement, people relations, everything is going to be happening on e-basis. And that's going to be the major challenge for HR. HR will have to use technology because people are going to be remotely placed. People are going to be located at far-flung places, whether they're at their home or at any other location. Working hours may be different, operations may be different, and therefore the criteria for human resource information system, which have been in practice for the last 2 decades, will change. The way we hire people today will be very different. It will go entirely digital. Nobody would expect people to come for interviews. People will not be expected to go through multiple levels of physical interviews and group discussions and those kind of activities, but hiring will have to happen through digital mode, whether we are using video recordings or whether we are using phone interviews or whether we are using webinars, all that, or maybe any other mode of conferencing and discussions will change. Employee benefits, workforce analysis, manpower planning, performance management is going to be very different. People are going to be measured on the outcomes and not on the basis of time they spend in office, because there will be no way to measure time people spend in office, because if people are working from home, it will be practically impossible for HR or supervisors to keep track of how much time people are spending for the work for the company and how much time they are spending on other things. Learning and development also is going to be very critical. John mentioned about skilling. In fact, one of the challenges that's going to happen to organizations is the challenge of skilling people. Till date, organizations have been working on classroom training modes, seminars, conferences. All those were the practices that professional bodies were engaged in, but things are going to be different. Today, organizations are now looking at options where it will be virtual conference, virtual seminars, the one we are doing right now, and virtual meetings. So if that's going to be the mode of practice, then training and skilling is also going to move from classroom training to virtual skilling and training. What would it mean? It would basically mean that organizations will have to design training program. They will have to design the contents. They will have to train their trainers. They will have to offer delivery online basis and also engage people online. Training will have to be designed in a manner where it gives people a feeling as if they were in the classroom. They will have to get used to a system where they can ask questions, they can have discussions, they can participate in activities on virtual mode, on digital mode, as if they were participating in a classroom situation, in a training or a learning program. Romy, you mentioned in my introduction that I also represent NOCN as an organization which is in the business of skill development across the globe. NOCN, which was initially offering skill development courses across disciplines and sectors and levels in a classroom mode or a physical mode, is today offering courses, certification programs for skill development on virtual mode. That means the learning of the students happen online, assessment of skills happens online, and certification happens online. So even for skill development, it is now practically on virtual mode or online mode as against the physical mode, because while training, education is something which we were familiar with could happen on e-learning mode, but skill development was something which was felt only can happen if it is in the physical mode. Now, we realize that through the digital mode, you can offer skill development programs. You can make people to learn using technologies, using the 3D models, through the simulations, all the techniques, the tools, and the methods they need to learn for operating the machines and gadgets and equipments that they need to use. So technology is going to help in a big way in imparting training and skills to people. What does it mean? It basically means that future of HR is going to be different. So HR will have to look at multiple issues that will help them to become different. First and foremost, they will have to identify what is the relevant information that need to capture. They need to analyze and present to people so that people can take right decisions. When I'm saying people, it's basically the management, because management will have to take decisions with respect to organization priorities. Because ultimately, it is the decisions which will help you to improve the productivity and performance of the organizations. Second important component will be, how will this information be structured and organized? How are you going to use this information so that this becomes more meaningful? For example, if you're looking at training and skilling needs of people, then you need to identify what are the training needs or the skills that are aligned and not aligned to the business goals of the organization. We need to organize information for training in a manner where organization is able to capture this competencies and strengths and capabilities and skills of people to do certain jobs and activities, so that people can be deployed, transferred, re-employed for various activities that organizations may have in future. We also will have to capture the right sources and identify the people from where this information will come. So gathering of information and accessing of information from the right sources is going to be yet another challenge for HR. HR will have to develop tools. Yes, when we talk about technology management, you will have to use lots of software tools, whether you are on an ERP mode or whether you are using standalone tools or softwares. You will have to pick up tools that will meet the expectations and requirements of the organization. You will have to customize the tools for your specific needs. And once you have done that, you will have to get into the mode of creating a culture within the organization where people are willing to share information openly. That is not going to be easy. In fact, generally in India and in other countries, people believe knowledge, information is power. And if you share information and power, you become weak. And therefore, creating a culture where people should be happily willing to share information is not going to be easy for the organizations. And therefore, they will have to there will have to be some reward and recognition policies and practices that will help organization to recognize, reward, and appreciate people for sharing information. So people will only be happy to share information if they see value in doing that. Organizations will also have to get the commitment of everyone down the line, from bottom to the top, to this policy of information sharing and knowledge management. So to conclude, let me say that the future for HR is going to be use of technology for managing people who are going to be remotely placed, who are going to be working from multiple locations, and to capture the emotions, behaviors, feelings of people is going to be critical for performance management, is going to be critical for productivity improvement, and going to be critical for engaging people and their retention to the organizations. Thank you, Romy, for the opportunity. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much.